know what we came to do.
Hey,
You know
man.
what we came to do. Look, I'm in a league of my own. Y'all need to leave it alone. I'ma just eat everything. I'ma just leave you the bones. Call it an even exchange. There ain't no need to explain. Yeah, it should be overstood. Like when I hop on a plane and I fly over your hood. Y'all should be knocking on wood. Don't make me go against the grain. I ate my Wheaties, I'm good.
What is the deal, college football fans? We back with another week of HBCU Flicks. Let's get it.
At least I got good flicks if they shake us down.
Another episode. So this is going to be a little tricky. It's going to be a little different than the rest of our episodes. This is a main episode based around the transfer portal. The transfer portal is booming, if you don't know. People are leaving. People are flipping. It's going. It's happening. But first, as always, let's get into the tweets. So the homegirl Ty, Big Bulldog Ty responded to me. But let's add a little bit of context. So I came out and said, yo, how is Kimari Averett not on an NFL roster right now? So Ty got to saying, man, it legit makes no sense at USFL. Come get this man. The NFL is so sleep. USFL breakers, go get him. Let him try out something. So this just led down an even deeper rabbit hole, and Kimari Averett actually came out and said that he's actually going through something right now involving false accusations that's holding him up from playing professionally and playing in the league. So Kimari, if you don't know, Kimari Averett is a tight end, 6'5", 250 pounds. Last year he played for Bethune Cookman University, and I got a chance to see him at the NFL PA Bowl, and he looked great. 1-on-1s, 7-on-7 team, everything. He looked great. Played as great as I could see from any big body tight end. You could build your offense around him. But he didn't get any looks in the draft and did not get picked up by an NFL team and invited to a mini camp, a training camp, summer camp, anywhere. They didn't invite him to anything. So Kimari Averett came out and said, and I quote from his Twitter, "Not getting drafted hurt. Not getting signed hurt. Not an invite hurt. I gave my best each college season I played. Never cheated the process. Unfortunately, I did have a rough past. It made me the man I am today. Haven't seen trouble in years. Don't really understand. No, I'm not about to post film, beg for an opportunity. Just not who I am." Now here it gets a little more tricky back here now, right? Here we go. Y'all all watch film. Everybody know that I'm a ball player. I think it's messed up that I wasn't able to live my dreams because of false accusations that I clearly was found not guilty. But yet again, the past strikes again. So, certainly prayers out to Kimari Averett and whoever's going on in this situation. I'm not privy to it, and I'm very sad that this is stopping him from playing football. If this is the roadblock that's in between Kimari Averett, I mean, damn, how do we get past this? How do we move and work to get to an ending, to a solution? This is a great player. I can't wait to see him get his shot at the professional ranks. I think he's gonna kill it. So let's get into the playbook. What you doing today, Flicks? What's going on today? So, as I said, we're doing transfer portal talk. It's gonna be a lot of it. We'll talk about guys that leave, guys that come in, and we'll also talk about my two early top 10 HBCU teams. We'll get into it. It's early, right? Almost June, but let me give y'all some rankings on where I think the HBCU Division I teams fall right now. We'll also talk about Bethune Cookman. They added 40 new players in the recruiting cycle this year. Since the Ed Reed saga, they have a new coach, Raymond Woodie, who's making a difference. And then we'll talk about some other difference makers that come from off the field, but it ends up on the field. Alabama A&M, they have field renovations. They're bringing some new turf. We'll get into that. We'll talk about Allen University's new facilities. We'll also talk about Tuskegee and their new facilities. So it's going to be a pretty interesting day of college football, if I don't say so myself. So first, starting off, we'll get into some of the top players joining HBCU schools. So here's some of the top-ranked players. Andrew Jones, number 1. Grambling just picked this guy up. They're loving him. The home team loves him. It's a great pickup. You pick up somebody on the defensive side that can kind of mirror what Quincy Mitchell does. You use Quincy Mitchell a lot, and he's really become a game changer for the Grambling. Now you add another guy around there in Andrew Jones, 4-star linebacker safety, kind of hybrid guy. Now you also, FAMU adds another guy to the Rack Boys. The Rack Boys are getting legit, okay? The question of who will fill the shoes of X-Men is being answered. They brought in Marcus Riley last week. This week, they're bringing Chris Reed, a 3-star wide receiver from the University of Utah. Another speedster. Add him to the list. Now, Mississippi Valley continues to make moves. They picked up a lot of great DBs this past offseason. Man, can't wait to see how this defense moves around. They picked up Jonah Little, 3-star defensive back, who is just going to work in great with this defense, if you ask me. He transfers in from the University of Cincinnati. If you don't know, in this offseason, Mississippi Valley also brought in a guy named Von Killens, who I can't wait to see get out there on the field. So I think Jonah Little will just play another role in this Mississippi Valley defense. Now, Caden Cobb, quarterback, transferring in from Ball State to Howard, 3-star quarterback. I did speak to you guys about Howard and how I felt about their quarterback situation. I did feel like Scroggins did have a chance to start. It should actually be the starter. Well, throw another wrench in there. We got Caden Cobb, 3-star left-handed quarterback, enters into Howard University as of last week. Add more depth to that quarterback position. We'll get into Howard more in my top 10 rankings. Cyril Riley, 3-star offensive lineman for Jackson State, and Tyus Martin, a 3-star D lineman for Jackson State, just committed this past week. Big pickups for Jackson State Tigers. So let's get into this whole flip concept. What's a flip, Flicks? Flicks, how do you flip? Well, these two guys show you how to flip, okay? Clifton McDowell and Duke Miller. These guys committed, decommitted, and flipped all within the same week. 7 days, people. It took 7 days for them to make a decision, think, nah, that ain't a good decision, and then make another decision with their life. Kudos to them for making a decision and doing what they got to do. But let's talk about it. Clifton McDowell from the Bears here, Central Arkansas, he was originally scripted to go to Southern. He picked Southern. That was his school of choice. Southern Jaguars loved him. They welcomed him with open arms. He seemed to be going into a loaded quarterback room, but no less than 3 or 4 days later, he decommits from Southern and recommits to the Montana Grizzlies, powerhouse in FCS football. Very interesting movement. Then next, this one got everybody talking in the SWAC. All the SWAC group chats wanted to talk about this. Duke Miller, who was previously committed to Alcorn State, flips his commitment and now attends Jackson State University. He stays in the SIP, but goes down to JSU. Alcorn State, which I must note, are looking for receivers. They thought that this could be one of the answers to their problems at receiver at this point. And losing Duke Miller does hurt Alcorn. If you hear any Alcornites saying they don't care, all right, coaches probably think something totally different, all right? They need some more depth back there at receiver. And losing Duke Miller does hurt. Big get for Jackson State. Shout out to them. Way to flip a guy. So, talking about Jackson State, we'll talk about what Coach T.C. Taylor has been bringing in, which is dogs. Some more dogs that he brought in. Joe Perkins from FIU, 3-star DB. What I really like about what Jackson State is doing is not only are they bringing guys up front, they are bringing guys on the back end defensively that can cover and that are heat-seeking missiles to the ball. That's what I want on my defense. I want a bunch of heat-seeking missiles that attack the rock, and that's what they have. So they add Joe Perkins, more depth to defensive backcourt, more and more depth. They're going to run a 4-2-5. So if you ever wondering why they have so many DBs, well, they're going to need them. They're going to need them. Some of these defensive backs are going to play like linebackers inside the box most of the time, attacking the ball, attacking off the line of scrimmage, and really covering a lot of these little quick slot guys. So now also you got Arrington McRae, 3-star tight end. Talked about the tight end and how important it is to a Jackson State offense. So I think Arrington McRae will get a fair shot at things and could get a shot to be that guy. Who knows? And then you got Tyus Martin, as I spoke about earlier, a 3-star D lineman. And Jackson State needs D linemen. They just lost Niles Gaddy. It's a big loss. He just committed to the University of Missouri. You're going to need some more pressure off the edge. If Tyus Martin can provide that or can at least stuff the inside so that we can find a guy for the C gap, so be it. But Tyus Martin right now is a pretty good pickup for Jackson State. Let's get into Bethune-Cookman, though. Bethune-Cookman has had a very different offseason. They hired a coach. Well, they almost hired a coach. They had it in writing, right? They wrote it in pencil, though. They erased his name out of that. I'm talking about Ed Reed. And not that long after that, athletic director and coach Reggie Theus hires Raymond Woodie as the next head coach of Bethune-Cookman University. Now, Raymond Woodie was, for the most part, a more local guy, I would say. And I would say that with all respect to Raymond Woodie and what he has done for South Florida. He started off as a high school coach. He was the youngest high school coach in Florida at 23 years old when he first began his coaching career. He started his coaching career in high school ranks. From the high school ranks, he got tagged along. And he tagged along with a guy named Willie Taggart. Willie Taggart, if you don't know, a pretty excellent recruiter, has been across the nation. His head coaching skills have yet to be proven as a winner, but his recruiting skills, nonetheless, have always been among the top in the NCAA. So, who was one of his head recruiters? Raymond Woodie. Raymond Woodie was the head recruiter at Florida Atlantic this past year. He has been the recruiting coordinator at Western Kentucky before, and in previous stints, even at University of South Florida with Willie Taggart. Coach Raymond Woodie specializes in outside linebackers and inside linebackers. He's a linebacker guy. If you ever have noticed from his signing class, you go through these list of 40 names, you're going to notice a lot of linebackers. They may not be playing linebacker when they get to Bethune-Cookman, but he can find them linebackers, okay? So I say that to say that Coach Raymond Woodie's a defensive guy. I look for Bethune-Cookman's identity to be built on defense first before the offense. What we're seeing from the offense so far is a lot of big guys. Jalen Brown, wide receiver that committed to Bethune-Cookman, is a 6'5" wide receiver. Kayan Calhoun, another fairly big-sized guy, three-star guy, very fast, gets out there. But even of the other receivers that Bethune-Cookman has offered, these guys are 6'5", 6'7", 6'4", 6'6". It's like, what the hell is going on? But you look at the success of guys like Cassius Allen at Southern University, and you go, well, that could work in the SWAC. Another big guy, they bring in a big quarterback. Excuse me, allergy season. Tylik Bethune, quarterback transferred from Delaware State to Bethune-Cookman. This guy moves from the MEAC down to the SWAC. Now, I talked about Tylik Bethune about a week ago in concerns regarding C.J. Henry, the quarterback at Delaware State. I said that I think he may have chased these guys out. He beat out these guys for this starting position, and they had been in transfer portal. So, of the two, Jared Lewis and Tylik Bethune chooses Bethune-Cookman. At 6'6", I think he will be the incumbent starter. I think he's your guy. I don't see a reason why he would make this decision to a team that's restarting from the ground up if he didn't have a chance to be the starting quarterback. I think absolutely Tylik Bethune is the guy you build around if you're Raymond Woodie, and that's your future. Build your future around him. He may only have 1 year, 2 years left. Build around him as best you can to form this offense so that you have a competitive team in the fall. You got a late start at this. You got one of the latest starts of any Division I football coach in America this year. I guarantee you Raymond Woodie was the last FBS or FCS coach that signed a contract to coach a football team this fall. I guarantee you that. So with that being said, that's why you see the 40 players come in during this recruiting cycle. And in bringing in 40 players, you just want a reputable team. You want a team that can compete, a team that will continue to go out there in the SWAC week in and week out and have a chance at wins. If you can't find that, then get off of this field. That's Bethune-Cookman and what I think they'll do this year. Let's get into the rest of what HBCU land looks like this upcoming season. And here is my way too early top 10. Screenshot it, screen record it, do what you got to do. This is it. This is my way too early top 10. I caught a lot of flack for my way too early top 10 last year, and I'm not scared to take the bullets this year. Let's get into it. North Carolina Central is my number one. If North Carolina Central isn't number one after what they did last year, I don't know what else they got to do. I'm not sure if there's anything else they can do. You win the HBCU National Championship. You beat Coach Prime and the superstar, Monstar Jackson State team that you face in the Celebration Bowl. You beat them on national TV. You put North Carolina Central's name on the map. Not only do you do that, the next season you return the best quarterback in HBCU football, Davius Richard. What some have called the best dual threat quarterback in the nation. You know, they are number one by a far margin. I think North Carolina Central can go back-to-back Celebration Bowls. I think so. It's yet to be seen, though. So one team that is vying for their first Celebration Bowl is Florida A&M. Florida A&M returns a plethora of guys. They have a running back room that goes 10 deep, according to Coach Willie Simmons. And they have a wide receiver room that gets deeper by the week, as I talked about the transfer portal. Just add a guy like Marcus Riley, who I think will fill the shoes of Xavier Smith. Bring back K-Dot, bring back Manigo, a slew of other guys on offense, including your quarterback, who I think is the best quarterback in the SWAC, Jeremy Musa. I think Florida A&M has a great chance to be one of the best teams in HBCU football because, for one, the boogeyman is gone. Jackson State, call it what you want it. And maybe you want to diss them, but that was the boogeyman. Coach Prime was the boogeyman. That was the only team that FAMU has lost to while they have been in the SWAC. Not only that, FAMU has only scored 9 points against Jackson State in 2 years. But now Coach Prime has left. There's a new regime. Coach T.C. Taylor is now there. I think Florida A&M looks at this like they got a real chance now, and they can take the crowns of the SWAC. Now, number 3 is Tennessee State. Last year, what I saw from Tennessee State was an underachieving team. I think that was the bottom floor for Tennessee State. I don't think Draylon Ellis will ever throw for less than 9 touchdowns ever again. I think everything changes. I think Coach Eddie George finally puts his team on the right page. The defense that's coached by Brandon Fisher is absolutely stout. You bring in newcomers like Jalen Bill on the defensive line. You bring Monroe Beard as a linebacker to pair with Kevon Pope. Your back end looks great with cornerbacks Deshaun Watkins, Bryce Phillips, who's just on my top 5 list. This team is pretty complete defensively. And offensively, I think they still had more room to grow from last year. This is going to be a new-look offense. You lose your running back, Devon Starling. You lose a couple receivers. You lose J.J. Holloway, a big receiver from Georgia that they had played a very pivotal role last year. But I think a lot of these offensive players were underused last year, just given the fact that quarterback Draylon Ellis was injured for most of the season after the Jackson State game. It's a little hard to play with your toys when your quarterback isn't in there. I think Draylon Ellis gets a full shot at this season, fully healthy, and returns back into form that he once had in his freshman year, winning Freshman of the Year. So now we got Howard at number 4. The Co-MEAC champions of 2022, you have to give them the respect of the top 5 in 2023, right? So Howard, they returned one of the top 10 quarterbacks in HBCU football, your boy Quentin Williams. I am not all the way sold on Quentin Williams, but with most of this team returning, with the retired coaching staff returning, Coach Larry Scott, I think that this Howard University team is primed to have a good season and to even go on a run. If they don't, they don't. But I think they can. I think Howard and what they have offensively between Eden James, Jared Hunter, Casey Hawthorne, list goes on and on. You have the right weapons. If everybody executes, I don't see a reason why Howard can't be a very decisive team this year. I think that they honestly could put a lot of teams away in the MEAC. I think in the MEAC, there is a big gap after Morgan State, quite honestly. I think you go North Carolina Central, Howard, Morgan State, then there's a gap between Delaware State and South Carolina State. I just do not think they're up to par this year. So, getting back into the SWAC, though, Alcorn State stands at number 5. At number 5, Alcorn State, you may go, well, why is Alcorn State there? Well, they returned some dogs. You bring back the best running back in HBCU football, Jarvian Howard, a guy that even some scouts have said they probably going to see him at the NFL Combine at the end of the season. With him and Tyler Macon, a 4-star quarterback who's looked great during the spring, by the way, I think they prove as one of the most deadliest tandems in the SWAC this year. I think what we're going to see out of Alcorn State is a high-powered offense. What we've been looking for a couple of years now since the absence of Felix Harper. Now, number 6, this is a less flashy offense, but Prairie View A&M has a very dominant run offense. They add a 1,000-yard rusher in Caleb Johnson this year, so I think that Prairie View A&M is primed to really be in competition to win the SWAC as they were last year. And number 7, we got Jackson State. I think we need to be realistic about what we think Jackson State can be this year. Let me remind you, this is a team that is losing around 45 players from the SWAC championship team of last year. That's also a Celebration Bowl team of last year. So this program and this team is completely new. On offense, there are only a couple names you're going to remember from last year. Guys like J.D. Martin, maybe a tight end or a couple linemen. For the most part, this is a new-look team, and we do not know what Jackson State is going to be in the fall. Practice or not, when the bullets start flying, we're going to learn what Jason Brown is. We haven't seen Jason Brown get sacked yet. I think that Jackson State does have upside, definitely. I think defensively, they have one of the best defensive backcourts in HBCU football, without a doubt. I think that it's going to take a couple of games for Jackson State to bring all of this together. The first game against South Carolina State could work as a tune-up game because I don't think South Carolina State is ready either. I think South Carolina State is miles away from Celebration Bowl. Needless to say, I think Jackson State may have a tough time in the SWAC. The SWAC is continuing to get better. As Jackson State continues to bring in these great recruits, you just got to wonder how all of it will mesh together. Number 8, we got Morgan State. Coach Damon Wilson and what he's done at Morgan State, I just can't wait for it all to come into fruition. I've seen what happened at Bowie State. I've seen the 3-time CIAA championships. I've seen that. And I am confident he can bring that to Morgan State. The biggest question, though, is who's going to be the quarterback of Morgan State. Are you going to return quarterback Carson Baker? Will he really make the difference needed to win a MEAC championship? Or do you go with the new guy, transfer quarterback Tosh Smith? Can he make the difference to get this Morgan State team over the hump? That's the question. Now, at 9, we have Southern. While I do think Southern is one of the most talented offensive programs in HBCU land, I think defensively they have left a lot to be desired. You lose a big guy on your back end with Corian Harris, and your complete front end is uprooted and taken out, and it's like you got a nice house. The house is crazy nice, but the curb appeal is to be desired. All the grass is torn up. The drive-through is uneven. The carport has a leak in it. And that's what I see with Southern. Offensively, you look good. You got a plethora of quarterbacks. You have your pick of the litter at quarterback. At running back, you have your pick of the litter. Yeah, they go about 6 deep at running back. And at wide receiver, you return almost all of your wide receivers, and you add another receiver from Prairie View A&M. But defensively, your D-line. Who's on the D-line? Is anybody left? You lose Cam Peterson off the D-line. You lose Jason Dumas off the D-line. You lose Jason Greathouse off the D-line. You lose Jordan Howard off the D-line. You lose Trey Lannick off the D-line. In 1 year, you lose all of these players. It's hard to expect Southern to be go back to the SWAC championship when I'm not even sure about their defensive line. When it comes to football, everybody knows how important a defensive line is in stopping the run and in setting the line of scrimmage. If you can't set the line of scrimmage, a team will literally bully you all the way down the field. We've seen it sometimes with Texas Southern and running that 3-3-5 defense. So with Southern, my biggest question is who's coming in on defense to fulfill the needs of tackling and pressure and setting the edge. And I got too many questions to put you guys in the top 5. So top 10, yeah, okay. We're going on the offense. Maybe defense will be all right, but you're at 9 because of your defensive line and how I'm unsure I am of that. You're at 9 because of your defense in total. I am unsure about the defense. So then at 10, we got Alabama A&M. I think this is the first year that Coach Connell Maynor doesn't have any expectations on him. Since Akil Glass is gone and last year's very underwhelming year, I think that Coach Connell Maynor doesn't have any expectations at all, which I think actually works in Alabama A&M's favor. I think they have a pretty decent team, and they have a team that I think is probably a year away from SWAC contention. Now, you do bring back running back Donovan Eaglin. You do have a couple quarterbacks back there that can sling the thing around, Quincy Casey, Corey Rankin. You have a couple guys, right? ATG is pretty good also. But who's going to put it together for you at quarterback? Who's going to win you these games at quarterback? We saw a dual quarterback system last year. That did not work out. We went down in flames, Alabama A&M. Things did not go according to plan. So in 2023, are we going with one quarterback, and can that quarterback get us over the hump? I'm not sure if they're – look, I'll go ahead and say it. I think Quincy Casey can get them over the hump. Anybody other than Quincy Casey, I don't think can get Alabama A&M over the hump right now. So that is my top 10 way too early rankings. Give you guys a little bit of analysis with it to understand what went into the thinking and putting together these top 10. And also, it's a top 10 way too early rankings for a reason. I'm still going to put on my preseason rankings about a week before the season down in the fall. But for the summer, this is all you got, folks. So eat it up. Eat it up. Now, next up, we get into some renovations, man. There's been some renovations going around in HBCU land, so I thought I'd highlight it, man. Shout out to the SIAC. Tuskegee just added a new video board to their scoreboard system. Coach Reginald Ruffin just came out, put out a release, family. We had a few delays, but still on schedule. Just a little added facelift to the football stadium. Video scoreboard going to be finished by the end of May. They are working in the bowl. Thank you so much for your continued support of Tuskegee University Athletics. We are one Tuskegee, one love. So shout out to Tuskegee. Let me get my damn horns out because they need it for this. This is pretty lit. I like this a lot. Dope, man. That's how you do it. You want to add to your fan experience? This is what you do. Tuskegee and what they have football-wise, they showed us this during the Miles game, is special. Super special. More special than some Division I colleges. Tuskegee is primed and ready, and I think that this video board even adds more to this beautiful stadium. If you haven't taken a look, please, 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 I beg you to go take a look at Tuskegee's new stadium, and it's a bowl. You still got the shed. It's like, oh, man, you got the shed, you got the bowl. During game days, up to 30,000 people can fit in that stadium. It's amazing. So, moving on to Alabama A&M and their renovations. Alabama A&M and athletic director Paul Bryant came out and said, we have made some changes to the football field. These changes are going down as we speak. They added some new turf. They added new turf, took up all the old turf, ripped it all up, put up off the field, all them pebbles, all the black pellets, took them all up, and now they're bringing some new turf, more natural turf, no pellets, and it's going to make for an even better playing experience. That's what it's about. That is what it's about. You don't want recruits coming to the campus, kicking through the turf and going, damn, that's a patch. Oh, that's another patch right there. I kicked up half the end zone just now. Or I just kicked up the 30-yard line, where the kickers kick. I just kicked that whole part up. You don't want that to happen, right? So I'm not saying Alabama A&M Stadium is that bad, but I am saying getting new turf is good. It's a breath of fresh air, especially for a football player coming and stepping on some fresh turf. There's nothing like some good turf. So shout out to Alabama A&M and what they got going on. And then lastly, I'm going to talk about athletic director from Allen University, from the SIAC, Jasper Cox. On Spaces last week, he was on with Coach Fred of Alcorn State, And, man, shout out to Coach Fred and what he does during his interviews. Coach Fred's interviews are awesome. They are very intuitive. You get a lot of information in there, and, oh, man, so much. You talked to Coach Don Thornton last week. That was great. But when he spoke to athletic director Jasper Cox revealed that Allen University is working on their own football field, a football field that's going to be 2 miles away from campus. It will also accompany a softball field, tennis courts, and additional weight rooms. So Allen University, man, I just talked about them last week and how I was gushing over their whole setup on offense. Now they're going to start having the facilities to go with it in the coming years. That's great news to hear from Allen University, who was a new SIAC program 2 years ago, who has now kicked into gear fully and go full throttle to athletics, similar to what we saw from Edward Waters. It's good to see much improvement in the SIAC. So there were some guys. We'll circle back real quick, guys, real quick. Work with me now. Work with me. Real quick. So there were a couple guys in this transfer portal who I did not mention, aren't on the screen, but these are some guys, my top available guys. Maybe I'll put out a small list about this tomorrow. But Twan Hines, Central State wide receiver. Some people called him the best receiver in the SIAC last year. So he's worth a look for anybody looking for a receiver. Another guy that's coming out. I talked about him last week on Allen. He actually just entered the transfer portal. His name is Jamal Jones, 5'9", receiver, punt returner for Allen University. I talked about him and his speed and, man, all that type of stuff last week. But this week he's in the portal. That's kind of how things goes. But he's one of my best available. Another guy that just got back into the portal, speaking of Alabama A&M, is Gary Quarles. Gary Quarles, running back, he was previously committed to UNLV, but he has now hopped back into the portal, and he's on the move. And lastly, quarterback that showed out during their spring game at Tennessee State, Heath Williams. Name to watch. Because with Heath Williams, you can find a quarterback that's ready to play now. I believe he's a grad transfer. He's a guy that sat around at Tennessee State. He's played a couple of games and really played some games for Draylon Ellis as he was hurt last year to prove himself. But after this spring game, I think he's shown that he's the number one guy for somebody's program. I don't think at Tennessee State, but somewhere else he can play. Similar to the skills we saw from Tyleek Bethune, a guy that transferred quarterback from Delaware State down to Bethune Cookman. So those are a couple guys to give a look at. Also want to give a big shout out to Raquan Smith, transfer from Norfolk State, transferring down into CIAA Division II, Elizabeth City State. Should be an interesting development. And as always, I'm trying to figure out where Eric Phoenix is going, bro. Eric, bro, wait, just let me know. I'll keep it secret. I'll hold it close to my heart. Pops, I'll hold it close to my heart, Pops. I just want to know where you're going, and I want to know that you're going to succeed, man, because I can't wait to see what Eric Phoenix can do in 2023. Man, shout out to all those guys that have been graduating. The graduation was this past week, man. All the commencements. Oh, man. Shout out to y'all, man. I went and got that degree. Love to see it, man. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in with me on another episode of HBC Flicks. I have loved every second of this episode. Can't wait to do some more transfer portal talk. And let's put it like this, man. I'm out of here.
At least I got good flicks if they shake us.